make some noise. Come on.
Oh, thank you, Nick Foles. And yes, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the latest installment of the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network on this lovely Monday evening, Cinco de Mayo, May the 5th. May the 5th, 2025. We're no longer with the force. Now it's Cinco de Mayo. May's just chock full of fun days. Mother's Day is quickly approaching for all you out there still looking to, if you forgot and you have a special mom in your life you need to shop for, you got about 6 more days or 5 more days, I guess. Welcome back to the program on another fine evening here with no Phillies baseball tonight. It's kind of weird. The Phillies have been, finally got into sort of a groove of playing ball this summer, but they've, we got a day off here. So we're going to try to use it the best way we can. And tonight on the program, I know perseverance at the end equals the reward. I get that. And nobody knows that more than Philadelphia sports fans. And we are a special breed, a breed that's different than any other sport fan in the world because pain, agony, defeat, being let down, the cornerstones of what make us fans. And tonight, in the worst possible scenario that could have happened to the Flyers in the draft lottery, the worst possible scenario for this hockey team would have been to go from the pre-draft order of 4 that they were in and fall down to 6. Well, that's exactly what happened. In a shocking, stunning turn of events, because it never happens to the Flyers. Never. The Flyers actually, in the franchise's history, the illustrious history of the Orange and Black, have never earned the first overall pick in the NHL draft. They've never had a record that put them in position for that. So I guess it's a good thing. They have picked first once, and that was back in 1975 when they traded with the Capitals for that first overall pick. They took Mel Bridgman, who had the best days of his career with the Devils. But the Flyers have never earned the right through utter futility for that first overall draft pick. And that streak continues because we didn't get it tonight. The New York friggin' Islanders, who had a pre-draft order positioning of 10 and had less than a 4% chance, or no, what was it? Had like a 2% chance or a 1%, almost 2%, 1% chance of getting the number 1 overall, somehow, some way, found their way to the number 1 overall. So they went up from 10 to 1 and got the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. The rest of the order, the top 10 at least, is the Islanders at 1, Sharks at 2, the Blackhawks at 3, the Utah Hockey Club / Mammoth / Outlaws at 4, the Nashville Predators at 5, your Philadelphia Flyers a putrid 6, the Boston Bruins 7, Seattle Kraken at 8, the Buffalo Sabres at 9, and the Anaheim Ducks, or Mighty Ducks, whatever they call themselves these days, are at 10. So the pain continues. The curse continues. They're cursed. There's no other way. There's no other way to describe the Flyers. You win 2 Stanley Cups within 10 years of your existence, back to back. You go to a third straight one and lose to the Canadiens. And then you proceed to have 50-plus years of championship-less hockey. And now, finally, things start to look a little bit like they're going to break our way. We had a bad season, but there's a lot of hope wrapped around in that season. They put themselves in an optimal spot to go up from 4 to 1, and maybe not. You know what? 1 could be a pipe dream. 1 is something that maybe you get some luck there, but to go from 4 to 6, that was the worst possible thing that could have happened to the Flyers. And guess what? It happened. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how that might change, who the Flyers might select. I don't think it's actually going to change it much at all because I still think 2 of the 4 players who I believe are day 1 NHL contributors will still be available at 6. And we'll go over some other possible scenarios of players they could take if those 2 are not there, because there is a chance they won't be there. But we'll break some things down and spell out some things as we because we spend a lot of time on this show. I spend a lot of time, god damn it, going over NHL draft prospects, and I'll be goddamned if someone's going to steal my thunder. I mean, come on, man, 6. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the overhyped season has officially begun. And then you can kind of feel it in the air with the Eagles. We're what, 5 months away from the start of the season? Or what, June, July, August, September, 4 months. Schedule release comes out next week. Everybody is still, there's a lot of people out there that are way overconfident about the Eagles. I'll give you my 2 cents worth of that. No Phillies news, but there is some baseball news. Otto Kemp named the International League or AAA Player of the Month of April, deservingly so. He had a monstrous month. The segment of the night and our card review, all those great things. And, of course, your day in Philadelphia sports history, all brought to you here today by the great folks and people that are involved in the It's a Wrap Sports Network and in the Final Word with MattyB. So let's get it rocking. Oh, Barbara checking in. Oh, my God, I thought the show was earlier. I can't keep these times. It's okay, Barbara. You'll be fine. Just keep at it. Joe Hale, what's going on, Joe? Flyers got robbed. I don't, Joe, did they get robbed? I mean, there's nobody out there trying to, like, they didn't get robbed. It's just, once again, man, it's the luck that doesn't work, man. I mean, we're doomed. We're doomed. So when the day comes, when the Flyers do win the next Stanley Cup, if I'm still alive, if I'm still able to, like, you know, express thought and speak and all those, boy, I will definitely be at that parade. I will definitely be, you know, there, because boy, oh boy, this has been, my entire life has been wrapped up in this. And it's one bad news after the next. You know, you get, was it 07? You get the number 2 overall, but of course, number 1 is going to be Pat Kane. You know, it doesn't seem to ever break right for the Flyers ever. And just when we thought we're making a little, we're kind of pushing our, you know, pulling ourselves out the hole, the NHL comes down and says, not so fast. Number 6 overall. Now, they do have 8 picks currently in the first 100 picks of this draft, so that's definitely good. But and there is still going to be value at 6. It's not all doom and gloom, but of course you don't hold your own fate in your hands anymore. You're hoping that 5 other teams in front of you do the right thing and set yourself up for success. But I think now that I've had an opportunity to settle down and stop destroying my home, I've sat down and I've looked at the team needs, you know, of the teams ahead of us, the players that are going to be there. I still feel pretty good, though, that some of my favorites in this draft will be available at 6 overall. It's not a bad place to be, but it just should have been so much better. You know, all right, fine, we don't get 1. Let's just say it 4, right? Why do we got to go down to 6? Like, I don't get it. And then the Islanders, the freaking New York Islanders, the 10th overall pre-draft positioning. When was the last time somebody went up from 10 to 1? It's insane. Was it the Rangers a few years back did that? I don't think it was even 10. I think they were down like at 7. I don't remember any team pre-draft positioning at 10 and going up to number 1. It's just, it's sickening is what it is. Adam says, what's up, MattyB? Adam, how are you tonight? Barbara says here. Yeah. Good job, Barbara. I'm glad you're here. We need a Lindros type. And there is a Lindros type out there. There is a Lindros type in this draft. There is a guy that fits that mold. Now, it is not generational. It is not, he's not coming with all the hype of Eric Lindros. He's not the next Gretzky. He's not hyped up that way, but there is somebody out there that could still be available at 6 overall that would fit that mold. And we're going to talk about him and a few other players here in a minute, Barbara. Losing is never good. I want to win every game possible because nothing is guaranteed. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the mantra of life, isn't it? Joe's saying hey to everybody out there. So get back to Joe. Well, I woke up again and Robbie is still managing. Robbie is still managing, and the Flyers fell from 4 to 6 in the draft. Just another great day in Philadelphia, and it's raining out. So, yeah. I believe in Danny. Danny B moves up to 3. So right now, who knows number 3? So if number 3 would be Chicago. Now, that's an interesting theory there. Chicago's been drafting high in the top 5 over the last 5 or 6 years. They've been amassing some players. They've been getting a lot of capital. I don't know. I don't know if Chicago does that. Now, San Jose at 2 probably won't move off at 2 unless you sell the farm to them. San Jose is trying to put their pieces back together again. You might be able to make something happen with Chicago. It would take a lot, and it would take quite a bit. And I don't know if the Flyers have the capital. I don't know if they have the on-ice capital or the draft capital to make that happen with Chicago. I don't, because Chicago is still, they've been picking high, but they've been missing, and they're still trying to amass talent as well. So I'm leery of the first 3 teams coming off of those positions. The Islanders ain't budging out of 1 because God knows that they're dancing in the streets in Long Island because this was not supposed to happen. So I don't see the Islanders coming off 1. San Jose is still trying to put the pieces back together at 2, and Chicago the same way. So I that'd be tricky. And I'm telling you, Joe, I don't know if it's necessary. And again, you just got to stay tuned. I'm going to break it down for you. And I don't think it's necessary. I think the Flyers might be okay at 6. I do. While maybe Barrera and Jones get creative and try to move up in the draft. I just kind of went on a rant there. I don't think they have to. And we've seen these boards. I've seen these boards break weird year after year. There's a consensus top 4 in this draft. There is. But there's a wild card player that's in there that could throw the balance off a little bit, kind of like it happened last year. After Macklin went, or Celebrini went 1 overall. I forget who was. I think it was Chicago picking 2. They went a totally different way than the player everybody suspected that would go number 2 overall, and then it kind of threw the board all off. I think it might happen again this year, and then again, it's team needs too. The Flyers are desperate for a centerman. I mean, desperate is probably more of a lighter word to explain how they are with that position. So, I think it's going to be okay. I do. Thompson mismanaged the bullpen again. Yeah, he did. And we'll go back. We'll rehash that. I'm more than capable of doing that, as Phillies are enjoying a rare day off before they start a 3-game set down in Tampa against the Rays. But let's get in. Let's get to it, shall we? Your day in Philadelphia sports history. So let's strap it in, strap it on, strap it up. And, this is part 2 of what we started last night. Because yesterday, of course, as we talked about, was the beginning of one of the greatest games in Flyer history. It was the quadruple overtime win against the Penguins. It started yesterday and it ended today on May the 6th, 2000. The Keith Primeau goal that was, echoed around the world, gave the Flyers, I think they tied up the series at 3 games apiece on their way to win the series. And everyone has their where you were stories for this game that began 7:00 on one night and ended at like 3 a.m. the next morning. I am no different. I was a young soldier stationed in Louisiana, watching that game from my barracks room. It was pretty cool. Stay up that late. Of course, didn't have to go to PT 3 hours later. Thank God we were kind of an hour behind everybody because we were in a central time zone. So got a little extra hour sleep there. Like got the 4 hours in, but still everyone has their where they were when this thing went down. And everyone remembers watching that goal and seeing it and feeling, one, you just endured again, I guess perseverance is sort of the key catchphrase here tonight, is you endured what that game was. And then it finally worked out for the Flyers in on the Keith Primeau goal. So tonight was the conclusion of yesterday's day in Philadelphia sports history, where the Flyers beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in one of the greatest games in the history of the organization, the quadruple overtime game in the playoffs against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So there you have it. And that segment of this day in Philadelphia sports history is brought to you by the great folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports, who present shows like this one. PNM in the AM made its triumphant return to the airwaves on Sunday. Pat and Mike and Al producing. They will be coming at you every Sunday morning, hopefully from now until the end of time, or until the Flyers win a Stanley Cup, whichever comes first. Every Sunday morning at 9 here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So make sure you're checking them out and enjoying all the greatness that they bring. Well, I don't know if it's like greatness, but the stuff they bring. It's not greatness. Well, it's greatness in their own way. Man, in my opinion, the organization lost its luster when the Lindros era ended. I mean, there's a lot of I don't honestly, Michael. When you look at the Flyers, I mean, we've had our moments. Uh, you know, when they first started, obviously as an expansion team, it took them a minute to figure out their identity. They went the Broad Street Bully way. That was majorly successful until the NHL caught up to them and made rules to kind of curtail that behavior, and also other teams started drafting players to kind of go up against what the Flyers were doing. Then the Flyers kind of, they never really slid completely down the hill after that. They were still a very competitive team after the two cups. As I mentioned, they get to the third cup there in 75, 76. They lose it to the Canadiens. But then they're always there. They're always in the playoffs. They're always hanging around. As I said before I started this, the Flyers have never earned the first overall pick. They've never earned it because of their record. They've only had it once in their history of their franchise, and that was through a trade. So there's something to that, and that streak continues. But they've always been there. They've dipped, right? In the early 80s, they dipped a little bit. And then in the mid 80s, they came back up. Late 80s, they were there. They dipped in the very late 80s, early 90s. They kind of fell apart, actually. Came back in the mid 90s, and they were, pretty consistent all the way up through about 10 years ago or so. And things just kind of went sideways from there. Bad trades, bad drafting, bad contracts. It's a common thing. And to examine where it began or how it began or what was the trigger point. I mean, you'd probably drive yourself crazy. The Flyers just had not been a very well-run organization for a very long period of time. And I'm not saying they are now, because not at all. I mean, they're trying, at least, with all these draft picks, and they got some salary cap. I mean, there's no reason why this team next year cannot be a playoff team. But things are going to have to break right for them. We're still looking for a goalie. Again, I use the word cursed. For some odd reason, since the death of Pelle Lindbergh, we've never been able to stabilize that goaltending position. And that beat goes on now. And it's the weirdest stuff that's happening. Our starting goalie gets implicated in a sexual assault investigation and gets arrested. I mean, this stuff, you can't make this crap up, man. I mean, every like weird ism that happens to the Flyers. It's amazing. So never like think things can't happen to this hockey team, because they do. And it's the weirdest stuff. So yeah, I don't know the answer. I wish I did. Even that Lindros era to me is a little cloudy, because if you look back on it and what Lindros brought to this team, I mean, what did he bring here? We didn't win a cup, right? He had about 5 years of dominant play. Then the concussions took over. Then the toxic relationship with his father and Bobby Clark and all that. But if you look about the players we sent out of here, Peter Forsberg, Mike Ricci, those players were Flyer prospects that went in that trade to the Nordiques. Would we have been better off keeping Forsberg and keeping Ricci and building around them guys? So to kind of like epochs Lindros as that main point, I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time trying to find out what Eric Lindros brought here. I mean, we didn't win anything with him. I mean, the luster, if you're going to say the luster and what era that was, it was probably after the Clark era. From that point on, they just haven't been able to kind of string it together. So I think you're giving Eric Lindros a little bit too much credit, because every day I look back at that trade. Well, not every day, but from time to time I look back on that trade and I wonder, what if we didn't make that trade? What if we kept Forsberg before, not the Forsberg that we got at the end of his career with the feet problems, but the Forsberg that led the Avalanche to Stanley Cup glory through the mid-90s? What if we had that Forsberg? And the young Mike Ricci, and then kept Ron Hextall here. I'm saying, man, would our fortunes have been different? I don't know. Ricky Deal is watching. I know you are, Ricky. Was Mario Lemieux last game ever? No. I don't know Lemieux's last game ever. No, I don't think it was. No, Lemieux's last game ever was like 6 years before that. It's like in the 95 or 90, 95, 96 or 96, 97 season. Yeah, Lemieux was long gone when that game happened. I always do, Ricky. I keep hearing the Flyers need a center, but who is the goal? Who is the goal tender going to be next season? Yeah, and that's another great question. Sam Ersson, we know he's not the guy. He's a good backup. You got a couple goalies floating around in the system right now. Of course, we got the Russians. We got Fedotov and Kovasov, which I don't think they're the answer at all. Kovasov's got a little bit of maturity issues. I think we should cut ties with both of them. Fedotov's a 6'8" Frankenstein who can't move. I don't like him either. So I don't really think those two are part of the future. Then you got the next group of prospects that are making their way in. Carson Bjornsson, who's a Canadian goalie, just finished up his 4th year with the Brandon Wheat Kings of the Western Hockey League. He's currently with the Phantoms, and he's down there right now. So he signed his pro deal at the end of his junior season this year. So he'll be in the mix next season, but I don't see him as the starter next year. Maybe the starter in Lehigh Valley. Once we dump Cal Peterson and his $5 million AAV, he'll probably be the starter next year in Lehigh Valley. You got Igor Zaran, who's a really good young Russian goaltender who's still hanging out in the MHL over in Russia. He's not coming over probably until the end of next season. He's going to be part of that next group of prospects. Zarajin, Bjornsson, they'll be the next two up for the position. I think Zarajin might be the one. But that's a few years away from now. So in the interim, like next season, they're going to have no choice but to go out into the free agent market. And there's a couple. Jake Allen is one as a goalie that stands out to me. That could be a spot starter for the next couple seasons before, as we groom the next group of goalies. And he wouldn't come expensive. Sign him to a 2-3 year deal. Split time with Ersson. I think Ersson's a capable backup. Ersson just can't be the guy. Ersson can be a 1A, 1B, but he can't be one. You know what I mean? And I think the Flyers would be in a good position to bring in a veteran goalie, somebody that can stabilize it until we get the next group of prospects ready to go, which are Carson Bjornsson and Igor Zarajin, the Russian. So if that's the question, that's the answer to that question. That's my answer, Michael. That's why I think the Flyers will go direction and goalie this next season. I wouldn't mind the Flyers signing Alex Lyon. Yeah, and he's out there. Joe Hale mentions Alex Lyon, former Flyer farmhand. He's available. He'll be a UFA. So there's a couple guys floating around that you could bring in to stabilize the position. No one's coming in from free agency that's going to take the job as the goaltender of the future. We don't have that yet. But we got the next group of prospects that are warming up in the bullpen, so to speak. And that's all that you can do at this point. The Flyers have once again mismanaged with their goalie situation. And again, the Carter Hart thing. I mean, how does this stuff happen to a hockey team? There's 32 goalies or 31 goalies, 32, whatever it is, goalies in the league. And the only goalie implicated in this thing with Hockey Canada was ours. You can't make this crap up, man. You can't. Think about it. Think about the luck. Will any top-tier free agents come to the Flyers this offseason? I don't think the Flyers are going after top-tier free agents, Michael. And I mean that in all the – if you look at some of the top names out there, they're all at the ends of their careers. The Flyer, they don't fit the Flyer mold right now. Flyers are looking for young players. Maybe I would say they probably break the bank on a guy who's testing free agency for the first time, UFA-wise, and there's none of those. There's all aging veterans. Quality guys, but guys that are in their like mid to late 30s. And the Flyers are not going to pay that kind of money. And I don't blame them. They shouldn't. They're going to have to continue doing this thing from within. So that's why I thought this draft specifically to me is very important for this team. Will they go out and sign some free agents? Yeah, they're going to have to, because we just don't have right now. We don't have enough people for a team right now. So they're going to have to go out and sign somebody, but they're not going to go break the bank on any of the top tier guys. And I don't think they should. These are guys all up in their mid-30s, late 30s, quality guys, champion guys, winning guys, but I just don't think they fit the Flyers blueprint. But there's going to be there's going to be people brought here because the Flyers have money too, but just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it. The free agents class in 2026 is a little younger than this group. It's a very old free agency class in 2025. The one in 26 is a little bit younger. So, I'm okay with them rolling the money over into next year and with even more money next season because more contracts will come off. More bad contracts will come off the book. I believe next year you lose Kevin Hayes' contract is up. Who else's contract that I know is not going to be there next year? I know you're losing Provorov's deal this year. You'll lose Peterson's deal this year. Ryan Ellis is next year in 2026. Kevin Hayes is 2026. So even more money is going to come off the books at the end of next season. So they'll have even more free agency money to spend with a better class, a younger class. So, this is a waiting game too, unfortunately, but that's my take on that. So how long is this Flyers process going to take before they can make the playoffs? I think it has to be next year. If you're asking me about making the playoffs next season, it has to. If the Flyers do not make the playoffs next year, Michael, that would be 6 straight years the team has not made the playoffs. That's never happened in franchise history. It's only been 5, and that's happened 3 times. And this is the 3rd time. The Flyers, if they don't make the playoffs next year, will be 6 straight years, and that's uncharted territory. It's got to be next year. They got to make the playoffs. I've been really patient about that. When other people are screaming they got to make a playoff run, a couple years ago, not last season, but the season before that, when we were in that 6th seed, at the end there, kind of cruising for a playoff berth, and then the Sean Walker trade happens, and everyone's all up in arms. Why are they doing that? I completely understood, and I was completely on board with that. They regressed last year, which I think I kind of saw that coming with all the new obstacles that they were faced with, the goaltending situation. I think no one's really taken that seriously, that there was a real drop-off last year with the goalie situation. Obviously, Urson, we had to give Urson an opportunity to win that job. He did not. So now you got to go a different direction, but you can only figure that stuff out once you go through it. So they regressed, right? Tortorella wore out. The players wore out with him. Just a whole bunch of toxic stuff last year. So, but I'm patient with that, because it's a rebuild. But I need to see something in 25, 26. I need to see progress. I need to see a light, a pulse, a heartbeat, something to get this team back in the playoffs. I want to see Wells Fargo, like I've watched, and it's becoming ancient, like archival stuff. Flyers home games during the playoffs. I miss that energy. I miss seeing that. I miss experiencing that. And it's got to come back next year. If not, just to give a franchise a shot in the arm. I don't expect them to win a cup next year, but they got to get back to the playoffs. So 3 years by MattyB's calendar. Next year being the 3rd year, they should be back. They got to get back to the playoffs. They got to. Do you think the Flyers process will take longer than the Sixers? Well, the Sixers process, what are we in now? Year what? 12? I hope not. I don't got that kind of strength. JVR contract comes off the books next season. JVR was a free agent when he left here. His contract's been off the books for a couple years now. He left as a free agent. The Flyers did not. They let him walk as a free agent. Kevin Hayes' contract comes off next year. Ivan Provorov this year, and a couple others. But JVR walked away as a free agent 2 years ago, if my memory serves correct. All right, so let's go into this now. Let's get into the draft. Again, I already mentioned the New York Islanders come out of nowhere, land the 1st overall pick, San Jose at 2, Chicago at 3, the Utah Hockey Club at 4, Nashville at 5, and the Flyers at 6. So I want to talk about what I think each one of these teams is going to take and why I think that our plan, or I should say my plan, if I was the GM of the Flyers, is still okay and still has a chance. But before I do that, I want to mention that the Utah Hockey Club I brought this up last night. You would think that with the 5th overall pick in the draft, when they call their player, he's going to come up to the podium and be given the new jersey, right, with the new name on it and the new logo, and no longer going to be the hockey club, because you would think that they'd want to give their their 1st overall draft pick the new stuff. And of course, we all remember. I told the story last night. I'll recant it right now. So they held a fan vote, and the 3 names that won, the top 3 names for the new franchise, were the Mammoth, the Outlaws, and the Yeti, or Yetis, whatever. So they took those 3 names and they took them to the trademark office and they tried to trademark them all. Well, the Yeti one did not work because it was too close to a different other company, so they would not trademark Yeti, but they were able to trademark Mammoth and Outlaws. So about a month ago, on their official YouTube channel, somebody in the PR staff or somebody with the team got into the YouTube channel and changed the URL to the Utah Mammoth, and it got out just for a little while before somebody caught it, and then they changed it back again to the Utah Hockey Club. So the prevailing winds out of Salt Lake City are that the new name of the Utah Hockey Club is going to be the Utah Mammoth, which, if you're asking me to choose between the Mammoth and the Outlaws, is it even close? It's the Outlaws. I mean, there's so much possibilities you can go with Outlaws, and really limited possibilities where you can go with the Mammoth. A big, hairy, scary elephant. It's not working for me. And don't we kind of have one of those teams already with the Sabres? Wouldn't that be kind of close? So unless they make it a cartoon kind of Mammoth, I just think you're limiting yourselves. And who would vote for Mammoth? What's going on in Utah? How is the Outlaws not the hands down choice of the fans to be called? It just has so much badassery attached to it. So I'm not telling you that the name is the Mammoth. I'm telling you that all the prevailing winds are saying that they are going to be known as the Utah Mammoth from this point forward, starting next season. And I hope that's not true. I hope it's the Outlaws. But that's the story about the Utah Hockey Club and their search for a name, as it is to this day. So let's get into this real quick. I want to get through all this so we can get on to some Eagles talk. I don't want to spend the whole night talking about hockey. I would, but I don't know if you guys want to do that. But here we go. So number 1 overall, New York Islanders. Now, when you look at the Islanders, and to look at the Islanders' needs is to look at the Flyers' needs, because that's how I'm basing all this. The Flyers' needs for me, if I am Danny B and I'm picking, I know there's a lot of talk about Matthew Schaefer, the it player of this draft. He's not a consensus generational, or he's not a generational talent. He's a very good player. He's the consensus number 1 overall, but he's a left-handed defenseman, right? To me, that's a position right now that the Flyers need, but don't covet. If anybody out there has listened to this program before, if anybody out there has followed me around before on social media and on the internet, you know I am adamant about the lack of centerman depth on this hockey team. And it's criminal is how shallow we are at center. We don't have a center. We don't have a 1 center. We don't have a 2 center. We got a 3rd center, and we got a 4th center. And Couturier is number 3. So we don't have a 1 or a 2 center. So we don't have complete lines. And that's part of the reason why John Tortorella had a fiddle with all those lines every game and switch them up, because there was never anybody to lock in, because we didn't have conventional lines. Well, the Flyers need to rectify that. And I don't know if they can rectify it all in one draft, but they got to start stepping towards that direction this year. And there's 4 centermen in this draft. 3. Well, 4. There's 4 centermen. 3 of them are day ones. The 4th one might not be a day one, but there's 3 centermen that I covet heavily in this draft. Now, as far as the New York Islanders go, this is a team that's rife with forward depth, young forward depth, young centerman depth. I don't think the Islanders go center here. I think they go with the consensus best player available, and that would be Matthew Schaefer. Now, Matthew Schaefer is nothing to stick your nose out. We've talked about him, and there he is, a 6'1", 174-pound left defenseman who played with the Erie Otters of the OHL this year. He's a heady 2-way defenseman. and a high-end skater. He's got great posture and glide. He's a balanced and flowing skater with light edges. He's mobile in all four directions. He is your prototypical 21st century centerman. He is a player that you can build and quarterback a power play around. It's hard for me to sit here and tell you out there that you can build your franchise around a left-handed defenseman, but Matthew Schaefer is the real deal. Matthew Schaefer is a difference maker at the NHL level. And I think he has some gaudy numbers, like he had like 68 goals this year for Erie, and like as a defenseman. I mean, I'm not really, I don't think teams are looking at his defense, so to speak, but they're looking at his ability to create flow, create play, create space, and then also quarterback power plays. And every team needs one of them guys, and not many have them. So with the Islanders' depth and young forward talent, especially in the center position, I think it's a no-brainer that the Islanders go with Matthew Schaefer here at number one, because he's kind of showing up on everybody's boards as the consensus number one overall. This is a matter of talent versus positional need, right? And it takes away kind of a conflict for the Flyers, if you ask me, because I know if the Flyers would have ended up in that one slot, there would have been a lot of talk about going ahead and drafting Matthew Schaefer, which I think would have been wrong. And not because of the player, but because we are so desperate for centermen here. I've never seen a hockey team at any level of play so inept with centerman depth than the Philadelphia Flyers are currently. So taking the option away of Matthew Schaefer might be a good thing for the Flyers. Now we don't have to worry about Matthew Schaefer because he's going to be long gone by the time we get on the board at 6. So I think the Islanders go with the best player available, and I think they stick with Matthew Schaefer as the number one overall pick in this year's draft. Number 2 overall is the San Jose Sharks. Now, this is a team, as I mentioned earlier in the start of the show, that's rebuilding, adding pieces to go along with some of the pieces they've already added. Macklin Celebrini, a player who was the number one overall last year. Do they need centermen? Do they need forwards? They do. Absolutely, they do, because they're trying to rebuild the pieces. So I think they go center. And the player with the best centerman on the board, to me, in this draft, is this young man right here. And I don't know if we went over him yet, but we will eventually get to him. Michael Misa. He's a 6'1", 170-pound center from Saginaw. Beautiful skater with some quiet explosiveness and a real knack for weaving, cutting, turning, and spinning in control of the puck to shake defenders under pressure in the offensive or defensive zone. He, again, is your prototypical 21st century centerman. He's going to work a perimeter game. You don't expect him to be parked in front of the net, fighting for greasy goals. That's not what Michael Misa does. Michael Misa is a creator. And I'm not, again, please, if I'm going to throw some names from the past out, I want you to take it with a grain of salt. I'm not comparing him to Wayne Gretzky, but if you ever watch Wayne Gretzky play in his early days, it's a lot like this kid plays. Very fast, very heads up, he's a creator, he's a facilitator, and he's also a goal-scoring machine. So Misa creates separation, he creates flow, but he's a transitional centerman. Everybody needs one of them too. And I think it's a no-brainer. He's the best center available. He's the best center projected in this draft. I think San Jose slam dunk at number 2 for Misa, and he's off the board now. So he's one of the 4 centermen that's off the board for the Flyers. Now at number 3, you got the Chicago Blackhawks in a similar position as your San Jose Sharks, the team that's rebuilding the pieces of their franchise, trying to add some more depth around Connor Bedard. They got young centermen. They got their entire team is young, and they're gonna take another young forward. I 100% think they're gonna take a forward, but I don't think they go center. Don't, because they got young centers. They got 4 of them, and they got a bunch of young centers. So I think for Chicago at 3, they go with this guy, Porter Martone, the right winger from Mississauga, from the OHL. 6'3", 196 pounds. He's got a good pro game and frame. He's a good skater who goes to the net, finishes the check, handles the puck smoothly for his size, and can be quite noticeable in possession when he's playing with confidence and intentions. Now, he would be a complement to the speedster and the goal scoring ability of Connor Bedard. Connor's a, he's that flashy type, Wayne Gretzky type centerman. He's not a greasy centerman. He's not going to stand in front of the net much. He plays a perimeter game, a mid game. Porter Martone is going to be an outstanding complement for Connor Bedard. It would be another opportunity down low for Connor to assist. And it's just another goal scoring threat for the Chicago Blackhawks. I think they build out. They don't build in. I think they're going to build out and take him as a right winger with the, the 4th overall pick in this year's draft. So Porter Martone goes 3rd overall, goes 3rd to the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the Utah Hockey Club at 4, this is the old Arizona Coyotes, a franchise that's been picking high in drafts for years unsuccessfully. I mean, just miss after miss after miss after miss. Things have kind of turned a little bit for Utah. This is another team that kind of came out of nowhere. Utah was in this thing for a playoff positioning right until the end of the season, like the last game. And now they find themselves picking 4th overall in the draft. Once again, we're cursed. So I think they also go center here because they're trying to create an identity. They're trying to build a franchise, and they're going to go with the 2nd best centerman, in my opinion, in this draft. And I think that's this guy right here, James Haggins. I think he's going to go at 4 overall to Utah. He's the Boston College. And now the thing with Haggins is I don't know if he plays next year. I think he goes back to college for one more year. I think he does. He's only, I think he goes back for another year at BU or BCU, Boston College. And I think he tries for another national championship. So I don't think he's a day one guy, but he is the real deal too. So 5'10", 172. His game is about skating and playmaking. He's so breezy as a skater, making his patterns look easy. He's on top of the ice. He's agile, and his stride and edges are dynamic, light, mobile, and adjustable with legitimate speed. Again, Macklin Celebrini is the comp here. It's the kid that was taken last year, number 1 overall by San Jose. This is James Haggins' comp, is Macklin Celebrini. This is what the new centerman of this era looks like, and James Haggins is that. And I think he goes to Utah at 4. So that takes us to number 5 now. And at picking 5th overall is the Nashville Predators. They're a mess. Absolute mess right now. And they need to build from the inside. So they're going to go another centerman. But I think they go away from the centerman that I'm looking at. I think they go off the board a little bit. And I think they take this guy, Anton Frandell, a 6 foot, 196-pound centerman from the Swedish Hockey League. He's strong. He plays with pace and power, and he's got high-end skill on the puck as a handler and play creator. He engages himself on and off the puck offensively and defensively. Again, a playmaking centerman on the smaller side. Got the European ice thing going on, a wider ice surface, a faster ice surface. Does that translate into the NHL? I think in the role that Nashville will have him play, it will. They're looking for scoring. They're looking for grease lightning, right? So I think Anton Frandell goes there at 5, which brings us finally to the centerman deprived Philadelphia Flyers. There's a couple directions we could go, and I'm going to go with both of them. I'm going to play devil's advocate with one, and if that one's not there, I'm going to tell you why I would pick the other one. So here we go. With the 6th overall pick in the 2025 National Hockey League Draft, the Philadelphia Flyers select, drum roll please, 6'5", 190-pound centerman Roger McQueen from the Brandon Wheat Kings. McQueen is a big right shot center with talent on the puck for his size and skating, which has improved greatly over the last couple of years. I like his tenaciousness, willingness to go to get pucks and stick with them when he has them. He uses his line mates well. This is why I want Roger McQueen. It was the same reason why I wanted Cade Lindstrom last year. I want somebody in front of my friggin' net. We mentioned the Lindros era, right? One of the things that the Lindros era was what made it so successful was that the Flyers controlled and owned the front of the net. Now, I know hockey has changed since then, but I don't think it's changed that much. It's okay to have both ends of your spectrum represented on your team. Roger McQueen might not pace out or grade out to a number 1 centerman. He might be more of a C2, That's fine. I need someone parked in front of my net on the power play. I mean, the Flyers' power play improved last year. It improved drastically last year, but we don't have a net presence. We haven't had a net presence for years. I think McQueen brings you that Eric Lindros-like skill set. And I say that, Eric Lindros-like. I'm not comparing Eric Lindros and Roger McQueen. I'm not. But I love the 6'5". I want him to put on about 20 more pounds and be about 220 or 210. But I'll take him right now. I want him and to check off two boxes, a center and then a net presence, because this team is pushed around in front of that net. This team is bullied in the corners. We got these undersized forwards, these Tyson Forresters, these Noah Cateses of the world, battling their butts off in the corners. But I want a kid like this who can go out there and win those battles, and then park his butt in front of that net and be that obstruction, right? That problem in front. And this is who I wanted all along. And I think there's a pathway to him. And I think the Flyers would be hell-bent not to select Roger McQueen. I wanted Cade Lindstrom last year to kind of complement Roger McQueen, but now, oh well, that's over with, and we're going to focus on this year. So give me some Roger McQueen. Now, if Roger McQueen is not available, if something does happen where he's selected before 6 overall, here's my fallback guy. Another centerman, Caleb Desnoyers. Now, you might recognize the name because he is the younger brother of Flyer prospect Elliot Desnoyers. Now, Caleb is about 1,000% better at hockey than his brother. His brother can't seem to get past the AHL, and I don't think he ever will. But Caleb is a 6'2", 180-pound centerman. He's opportunistic and gets open really well. He involves himself in play. He can carry and hold pucks or play off his line mates in give and goes. He's got a real feel for the game offensively, and he's consistent. While he's not a dynamic skater or individual creator with the limited time and space. So there's some limitations with Caleb. Caleb's too small to play up front, but he's too big to play mid-game. So it's kind of living in no man's land, all right? But what he does with his talents is he utilizes them. Now, Caleb's got C2 stamped all over him. I mean, he's a prototypical second-line centerman. But he's also not a day oneer. I don't think he's a day oneer. I think he's going to go back to junior hockey next year. So there's another drawback to him. But if McQueen is not there, I'll take him too. I will gladly accept Caleb Desnoyers as my 6th overall pick because he, again, checks some boxes, and we can continue the rebuild. But there you go. So it might not be all doom and gloom for the Flyers heading into this year's draft, as I think the players that the Flyers covet, or I should say the players I covet, will still be available at 6, at least one of them. My hopes and dreams are strapped to Roger McQueen because I honestly think he is a game changer for this team. He's a day oneer. I think he's a day oneer. I do. I think he's a day oneer. And he will be that presence in front of that net that we've sorely missed for years. And he can also move. And he can also skate. I hate the mid-game. I hate it. I hate the slot game. I know that's where the hockey gods have shifted the NHL. Everybody plays out along the dot. Everyone's about 15 feet outside that net. It's time for the Flyers to break that mold, and Roger McQueen would go a long way in assisting in that. And at the very least bit, when Owen Tippett is wildly shooting at the net, there's going to be somebody there to clean up the mess, and that would be Roger McQueen. So I think he would be the ultimate number 1 pick overall for the Flyers at 6. If not, Caleb Desnoyers, the younger brother of Elliot Desnoyers, Flyer prospect who cannot seem to get his butt out of the AHL. So there you go. I don't know if that makes you feel better. I don't know if you've taken that much time in thinking about this problem. I've obviously taken a lot of time in thinking about the problem with the Flyers and their draft and what the assets that they might have. So give me some McQueen and some Desnoyers and call it a day. So it might not be all doom and gloom. The number 6 overall pick might work for the Flyers in the long run. So there you go. So do you guys feel better? the Flyers process, in my opinion, has been going on since Lindros left. Nah, that's been going on that long, has it? I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's maybe some truth to that, Mike. What was their direction after Lindros left? We didn't have one. It was this mix and match stuff, trying to buy teams to stay competitive. Yeah, you might be right. Might be right. Why do Flyers do with the other first round pick? So the other first round pick. So there's more than there's actually 3 in the first round. They're picking right now 24, which is Edmonton's first round pick that they got, and they're also picking at 25, which is the Colorado Avalanche first round pick for the Sean Walker trade. Now, the Edmonton pick at 24 may or may not be theirs. Edmonton might say they're not going to. It's a deferrable pick, so Edmonton might say they're going to take it, which would then push the Flyers back to the first round, to Edmonton's first round next year, or Edmonton might say they don't want it, and boom, we got it. So I think they go center with 24 with a guy named Braden Coots out of Seattle, the Western Hockey League, and I think they go defense in the 25th overall pick, Sasha Bodanin, another player that we've covered here on this network, out of Boston University. So there you go. I hope that answered your questions, Joe. Again, 24 and 25. So 6, 24, and 25 is right now where the Flyers are picking in the first round, as we stand here today. So I think they go center again because I'm desperate for centerman. Desperate for centerman. So I don't think it's a off topic that the Flyers take back-to-back centers in the draft because we need them. We need them bad. We need them really bad. And then I think they go defense, and I think they go defense with their next 4 picks because we need defense too. Because obviously this group of players that we got may not be working out. So there you go. That's my Flyers take right there. 53 minutes on this. Oh my God. Oh wow. All right. Well, listen, folks, I'm sorry that we ran so late talking hockey tonight. I enjoyed that. I guess we're going to table the Eagles conversation until tomorrow, because the Eagles conversation is kind of detailed. I don't want to gloss over it. I want to get into it heavily. The overhypeness of the offseason. We're getting to that part of the offseason. So we'll table that. We'll table the Phillies discussion as well, because tomorrow night the Phillies will be back at it against the Rays. I'll be here tomorrow after the Titans final, so we'll be able to check all those boxes tomorrow night. But I don't want to rush through any of that stuff. So let's go now to our of the night segment and keep this thing rolling. You guys got to tap me on the shoulder when I go 54 minutes about hockey, man. All right, this is the other night segment, and I guess to kind of keep with the theme that we've been talking about all night, we did what was it? We've been talking NHL draft. Let's continue our draft profiles because we haven't really gotten through everybody yet. Let's go to our player for tonight. I believe it was Jackson Smith. So Jackson Smith, left-handed defenseman from the Tri-City of the Western Hockey League, a 6'3", 190-pound defenseman, big, strong, powerful left-handed shot defenseman who plays hard and can impact play in a variety of ways. He's strong through his pushes as a skater, regularly skating the first layer of pressure laterally. He walks off the line proficiently and gets his shots through. Jackson Smith is probably more of a second-round pick, but he might be there when the Flyers pick again in the second round. He's part of the group of 4 defensemen I'm going with after I take back-to-back centers. So Jack Smith is actually my last defenseman that I want the Flyers to select. This would be in the second round, though. So Jackson Smith is our spotlight player of the night in of the night segment. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, going heavy hockey. I had to go heavy hockey, man. The Flyers losing out on that first-round pick was a critical event in my life tonight. It hurt me, man. It hurt me. All right, let's get on to the best time of the night. Yep. MattyB card review. It is hands down my favorite time of the night. Our final segment of every show, and it's deservedly so. We hold the best to last. Tonight, we're staying in baseball. Last night was Howard Reynolds' 93 pinnacle card. Well, we're going to go with a player that hits right here for me, right where I live. One of my favorite players of all time, not as a kid. This was as a grown man. This player was a symbol of a new era of Phillies baseball, a new era of championship style baseball. He debuted at the end of one era of Phillies baseball, which was the Veterans Stadium era, and he took the first era of Citizen Bank Park into dizzying new heights, helping us capture our second ever world championship. The greatest, hands down, greatest, no question about it, second baseman in Phillies history, Mr. Chase Utley. And this is his 2018 Topps card when he was a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I've scoured my collection up and down. I don't have any Chase Utley Phillies cards. I don't own any Chase Utley Phillies cards. How did that happen? But this is his 2018 Topps card when he was with the Dodgers. This card is what Topps did with 2018. Their set was not only did they blow out the entire front of the card as the card, but they flipped it. Everything now is horizontal, not vertical. They completely turned around their entire printing presses and everything they've done up to that point, and went with this style of card for the 2018 Topps selection or Topps cards. Of course, the player himself, Chase Utley, at the end of his career, what can I say about Chase Utley that has not already been said? Career batting average of 275, 259 career home runs, 1,025 runs batted in. Played for the Phillies from 03 to 19 or 15, and then played for the Dodgers from 15 to 18. 6-time All-Star, a World Series champion in 2018 or 28 and 2008, and a 4-time Silver Slugger Award winner from 06 to 09. And Hall of Famer? Dare say Hall of Famer? I really believe he's a Hall of Famer. And I also believe he'll be the next number that the Phillies retire at Citizen Bank Park. So now this card itself is not worth really anything in this base format. As you can see, it's a very base card. But there are variants of this card that are worth money. There's a 4th of July edition of this card, a parallel that's floating around through the 2018 Topps set. It's got like a patriotic background, not like a red, white, and blue background, but like a electric red and some blue. That card's worth about $50 if you come across that 2018 card. But this one is a base set card. Now, there's a retro logo card from the 2018 Topps. That's like this card, but with the retro Topps logo in the upper right-hand corner. Instead of the Topps that's written across, it's the T with that big loop-de-loop thing around it. That card's about a $25 card. But this card in its base form, $2, $3, nothing really spectacular about this card. And of course, it's Chase Utley as a Dodger, so it doesn't really do anything for Phillies fans. But I was amazed that I didn't have any Chase Utley Phillies cards. I honestly was amazed by that. But this is my only Chase Utley card. I don't have any other Chase Utley cards except for 2018 Topps. And it's our card review of the night. It still has a place of reverence in my collection because it's Chase Utley. And if I ever come across Chase Utley, he'll go into the binder where he belongs. And there you have it. Our card review of the night, the 2018 Topps Chase Utley. And here it is. Physical form. This is a damn near perfect card. Centering is amazing. Very sharp corners, very sharp edges. Probably a 9.95, I would say, which would get me about $3 at any kind of card store. But there you go. Listen, guys, thank you. Thank you for coming along on the ride. A bittersweet night for me. Flyers had expectations. I had expectations of a potential number 1 overall pick, or at the very least bit of 4 overall. That didn't work out. The Flyers went from 4 to 6. Islanders went from 10 to 1 as they captured the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. But I still think if the board breaks right, which I think it will, the Flyers will still have their pick of at least 2 players that I originally wanted them to take when I thought they could be at 1 or 4 even. So I still think the draft targets that I want, at least, and I think the draft targets that would be more the best for this young team right now as they try to rebuild the center position will still be there. And that on top of some cap room, That on top of some trading possibilities. So don't forget, overall in this draft, we have 12, count them, 12 draft picks through the 7 rounds of this year's draft, the hockey draft. And 8 of those of 12 will be taken with the first 100 picks. So there's some opportunity. Michael mentioned in the chat, maybe the Flyers move up to 3. I don't think they have to. I don't think they got to mortgage what they have to go up in the draft. I think what they want is going to be there at 6. And I think at least 2 of those players that they want are going to be there at 6. What I would like to see them do with some of those other draft assets they have this year, potentially work trades to bring players here from other teams. The Flyers are in a conundrum this year. We're entering the 6th year of not making the playoffs. You guys mentioned in the chat, when is it going to be our time? I think it has to be next year. We cannot step into uncharted territory and not make the playoffs for a 6th straight year. We got to show some yield next season. So I don't expect Danny B to take those 12 draft picks. If he does, whatever. I want to see him get creative. I need to see big balls, Danny. Right? I'm tired of giving away the farm. Now it's time to start bringing some assets in. Let's start making some trades. Let's start bringing some players here. Let's start using some of these assets we got with the exception of the 3 first-round picks, which I think the Flyers should use. But let's try to move some of those other assets, bring some people here, couple them with our new draft picks that we hopefully will have at least one day 1 contributor next year. The prospects that are currently playing for the Phantoms, some other prospects that are going to make a name for themselves starting next year as well. And we'll get one more year closer to hopefully finally getting to the promised land of Stanley Cup championship. But we spent an hour talking about hockey. It flew by. I very rarely do that, and I should really do it more often. Hockey needs to get back into its proper spot here in the Philadelphia sports landscape. I'm tired of hockey being behind the Union. Right? I am tired, and no disrespect to the Union. No disrespect to the Wings. But I'm tired of being the 5th sport in Philadelphia. We need to go back up at least to number 4. And with the way the Sixers are rolling, we should be able to slide into that number 3 hole too. But it's time for hockey to return to its point of reverence in the city. And hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed, even though this franchise is cursed, we can potentially make some noise this year in the draft and starting that direction. So I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Remind everybody that everything else is happening on this network. Good show. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Michael. First, we need a head coach. Yeah, I didn't even talk about the coach. See, Joe, I went over all the other problems on this team, and I never even brought up the coach. We don't have a coach. So, again, we need to start putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, man. We got to start. And this is the year. Got cap room, right? We got a lot of draft assets. We can make a lot of noise this year, both for the future and for the immediate future. And this is it. The training wheels now are off, Danny. This starting right now, starting in this draft, from this point forward, I need to see the actual rebuild, not the stripping down and getting rid of, but the rebuild starts now, this summer. And Danny's clock is now ticking, starting with this draft. I need to start seeing moves. We need to start getting this thing pushed forward. So now the honeymoon's over for Danny B and Keith Jones, in my opinion. All the good vibes and the dual logos, the burnt orange uniforms, all the return to Flyers greatness and trying to reconnect to the community, that's all great. But now I want to see a product on the ice. Now it's time to rebuild this team. Take them to a Stanley Cup. Danny B's clock begins now with this draft. And what he does from the draft on is now it's time, Danny. It's time to start making your bones as a GM. I can trade players. I can jettison draft picks. I can get rid of a player and Cutter Cochier didn't want to play here. I mean, come on. How much more? What's next? Locust? I mean, what the hell, man? Got players don't want to play here. One's getting arrested for sexual assault. Got a coach that can't get along with the players, so they fire him. I mean, what? Haven't won a Stanley Cup in over 50 years. Go from the 4th position in the draft down to the 6th. What's next? Locust? All right. But come on, we got to reverse the trend here. We got to start bringing players here. We got to start rebuilding this thing. And Danny B's on the clock. Keith Jones is on the clock, starting not only for the draft, but for their 10 years as Flyers management. It starts right now. So remember all the great fine quality program we have here on the program. Every Thursday night at 9, the Attacking Third with Steve and Pat. Every Sunday through Thursday is the Final Word with MattyB at 10 p.m. I'll be back tomorrow night after the Fightins Final because the Phillies are back at it tomorrow in Tampa. Here is your Fightins Final lineup for this week. Steve Fuentes has you tomorrow, Mike Lauro on Wednesday, and I will be back on Thursday night to bring you some great Tampa Bay Ray coverage. And then on May 15th at 8 p.m., don't forget the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn makes its return for its unofficial start of its 6th season, as me and Kyle will wrap up the free agency period, the draft, and we'll talk schedule release because the Eagles schedule comes out next week, and we'll be able to wrap all that up in one tidy bow on the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn on May 15th. So a lot of great stuff coming. Please make sure you're staying tuned. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, help us out, help us grow. And until we talk again tomorrow night, you guys have a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow. Take care.